welcome to Up Close with Carlos Sang, celebrating art, entertainment, and the human spirit. Welcome to another episode of Up Close with Carlos Sang. My next guest is one of the most exciting new graduates to join the musical theatre scene. He was a finalist at the Sondheim Student Performer of the Year Awards last year, and he is joining us today. I am so excited to be able to introduce Cassius Hackforth to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
So the first time I came across you was at SSSPOTY, the Sondheim Student Performer of the Year, where you were a finalist. Could you tell us a little bit about, what it was like, auditioning, and, what was it like, being there on the night?
It was so incredible. I can't even describe how grateful I am to have been able to have done it, because it was something that when I auditioned for drama school when I was 17, it was something that was the long goal, was to be able to do something like that, because I had a friend who had won it, and he was someone that I performed with, and I kind of really looked up to him. And obviously Sondheim was kind of my first introduction into musical theatre, so seeing the type of performers that had done it, and they were the type of people that had inspired me growing up, and so being able to audition for it was, and actually that year it was all done online for the first year. So there were about 500 applicants, I think, or something along those lines. But when I auditioned for it, I just decided I was either going to give it everything or not do it. And I literally threw my whole soul at it, really. And when I just remember when I got that email, it was crazily exciting. And then obviously doing the show was crazy. Just being able to perform in front of these people that I'd watched growing up, it was so special, and I felt like a winner. Just getting to the final 12 was just incredible, and I think it will probably be one of the most memorable evenings of my life, really.
Yeah, I remember reading in the program that you were really inspired by Jenna Russell, who was hosting that evening. Did you manage to chat to her as well, after the show, and tell her about her influence on you?
Yeah, no, I managed to speak to Jenna before and after the show, and we've kind of got quite a mutual connection, because my cousin Robin, who I've kind of grown up with, he went to school with her husband, and so I'd kind of seen him in some shows, and obviously Jenna I saw in all of her shows were just, and everything she's done has been incredible and utterly heartbreaking in so many ways. And so being able to speak to her and then to watch her perform from the side of the stage, it was phenomenal. And it was quite poignant that she was hosting, actually.
Yeah, I know you spent a lot of time with NYMT as well before you headed to Trinity to train. I was curious, did the experience training ended up being what you expected it to be, having already, performed so extensively previously?
I'd say kind of when I auditioned for the National Youth Music Theatre, all I'd ever done was amateur shows, and I was like, right, this is the step that I want to go, because funnily enough, a lot of people that I was performing with who were doing things like the SSSPOTY, they'd done NYMT, so I thought, well, this is definitely the right step. And that was, my first kind of glimpse into performing professionally. And so I think all of the stuff that I did kind of working up to graduating drama school, and just all of I'm very much a go-getter. I write to a lot of people. I reach out to people. I'm a firm believer in, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I pester quite a lot of people, and that's given me a lot of opportunities, which has been incredible. So I'd say, well, my training for me specifically was really important. Just being able to work on the things that I was already kind of strong at, but also things I was weak at. Dance and all that stuff was never really my strong point, and it's never really going to be something that I'm going to do, but it was still good to be able to do that stuff and to have that training. And I really kind of got a good push when we went into the pandemic at the end of my first year, because I don't think I was taking college seriously enough, in the fact that I didn't really know where my strong points were, and I was kind of still developing. Funny enough, I just turned 18, and my voice had only broken a couple of years prior, and so I was really much navigating where I was. And there was a teacher that gave me a really great kind of pep talk, if you like, And from that, I kind of started to get my head down, and that's when I started doing a lot of the work at home. And that made kind of third year and the kind of year after become really, really great for me, and really, really lucky to have done some awesome things.
Yeah, growing up in Llangollen as well, I was really curious about, how did your, love for musical theatre develop? Did acting always feel like a viable career option? And do you think you have to move to London, to pursue this profession?
Yeah, so being in Llangollen, I don't know, like the amateur and kind of school productions I did were that first kind of glimpse, and that was so important. But Llangollen also has something called the International Musical Eisteddfod, where people from all over the world come and perform. Like Pavarotti competed there, the renowned singer, and musical theatre actors have gone there. They did Sweeney Todd there, like a professional production with, I can't remember what his name was.
Or was it Bryn
The
Terfel?
Yeah, Bryn Cathabel, yeah. He performed that. I remember that was my first audition, funnily enough. I was 13 and I auditioned for Tobias, and I'd never done anything properly. I'd done like one show, and I remember I just got so nervous. And yeah, that was funny. But I think you don't need to be in London to be able to pursue that, but it definitely helps. It feels like this is where it's at. Apart from maybe other cities like Manchester, if you're doing more TV and film, there's a big TV and film base there. But it was always going to be London, because that was where I'd always seen what all these shows that I wanted to be in and all this stuff that I wanted to do. So I feel like you've kind of got to come up to London at some point. Maybe not for your training. There's some incredible training across the whole UK, really. In Chester and Birmingham, in Leeds, Manchester. There's so many options in Scotland. But I'd say kind of graduating, for me, it felt important to be up here.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite shows last year, of course, was From Here to Eternity. I love the production, love the new musical arrangements. Yeah, when can we expect the cast recording?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. It was incredible, and Nick Bass, so the new orchestrator and kind of arranger and supervisor, he
Hmm.
created such a incredible sound with such a small amount of people, and I think that was kind of one of the highlights, really. What he's done with the score, with the already amazing score, and it just was an absolute delight to be able to be part of that. And we did the cast recording a couple of days after we closed, and so by summertime it'll be out, hopefully. And
Hopefully.
I have no idea, so I don't know why I'm saying that, but I'm hoping that, because I've had a tiny little sneak listen to one of the songs, and it is incredible.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I was so glad I got to come and see it, and it was so interesting, seeing this show about, World War II during a time when we almost seem to be heading towards World War III, with everything that's going on. Yeah, did the current socio-political climate, impact the way that you approach the show and, make you reconsider, your thoughts on war as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was very real. I remember when we did the first rehearsal of the actual Pearl Harbor attack, and it was really scary. And Brett, our director, really gave us such a great, obviously we were really well supported in the room, but also he kind of reminded us that these people were boys at the end of the day. They were just barely turning adults, and in the current climate, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? I certainly during rehearsals kind of noticed the similarities and kind of the fear. It did kind of hit home. And we did one of the shows on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, actually, and that was very raw. And obviously being one of the soldiers, I mean, it just kind of makes you think that what's going on in Ukraine right now, and the history is repeating itself in a way, and that's scary, and yeah, sad.
Yeah, it is. I thought it was also really interesting, just seeing how young the cast was for From Here to Eternity. And,
Mm.
I feel like a lot of shows seem to be casting a lot younger these days. Do you ever
Yeah,
worry about there, being perhaps a limit on, what roles you can play before you hit a certain age?
yeah. I mean, if you looked at the original West End cast of From Here to Eternity, you would have seen that like the majority of these people were kind of, I'd say, more in their kind of like late 20s, maybe even early 30s. When I was in the audition room, I was kind of surrounded by a lot of people that I thought were much, much more muscular and kind of built differently, and kind of, and I was like, well, that's kind of the soldier that, you know, how am I going to be kind of that? But from once we got into the rehearsal room, I kind of saw that it wasn't about that. You know, there were soldiers that weren't. Mostly there were soldiers that were missed home, geeks in school and all that type of stuff, you know, and they had no other choice to enlist because they were in the, you know, the absolute shitholes of where they lived. They couldn't afford to live, so they had no other option but to enlist into the army. So, you know, that's why there were lots of us who were much younger and kind of represented that kind of young age range, I guess. But it's genuinely down to the individual, kind of the types of parts that they're in for. You know, if there is someone who looks 18 and they're 28, then that's absolutely fine, you know. And that they'll be in for those types of roles. Just as much I look like a 12-year-old sometimes, you know. But I don't think it worries me that much. I think the industry's heading in the right direction, casting things that suits today's kind of age and are accommodating to every gender and are opening doors to people who are, you know, for transgender people, and they're giving people opportunities that wouldn't necessarily have these opportunities in 10 years ago. So I think generally casting is going in the right direction. Yeah.
Okay. How much did you know about From Here to Eternity as well before you went into the show? You know, there's only been, I think, one major production in the UK, and you know, obviously the film is, you know, a very iconic film. So, you know, did you see it that before you went into the show as well? You know, how much did you know about it before?
Yeah, so I'd being like someone who loved musical theatre and kind of I'd heard of it before, I'd seen it, I'd like seen clips of it before online. When I saw the availability check come through from my agent, I was like, I remember saying, "Oh, I know this, I recognize this," and then I looked it up and I was like, "Oh wow, okay, this is Tim Rice and you know Stuart Brayson," and so from when I got the audition through and I did the first audition, and I just remember it was a really great. And a funny story about the audition process. When I auditioned, so I got through to the second round, and we did the second round was a dance round as well as some scene work, and it was like a sumo hit kind of movement dance kind of workshop kind of thing, and I really struggled. And I came up and did the scene for the team after it, and they said, "How did you find the dance?" And I was like, "Look, if you gave me another like 10-15 minutes, I'd be able to smash that out of the park." And they said, "Okay, come again tomorrow." And I came back the next day and did the call again. And I don't think many people would give you that opportunity, but they gave me that opportunity so I could work on something that I knew I could do, and then I could show them that I could do it. And that was kind of from that moment, I kind of was like, wow, I really want this. This is an opportunity like no other, really. And
Mm.
so I read the book. I got the book before my finals because there was about a month's gap in between the finals and the third round and the finals. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I read through the book and did all the notes. We might even have it in here, you know. I've got a whole book of that I do all the notes on. Wrote out all the type of stuff that I kind of came up with, kind of like what my type of character is based on kind of the vibe that I got in the room, so I could kind of conjure up something when we did the kind of the scenes and the songs. And yeah, so that was kind of my preparation for it. And then yeah, the book was the most important thing because the film was kind of changed quite a lot because the book is quite raw and uncensored, and was the uncensored version was actually released quite a long way after it was initially released because of you know the homophobia that was going on in the US at the time. And the writer, we had a Zoom call with the writer's daughter during rehearsals, and she kind of explained everything to us, and it was really special to hear how these characters were all real, and like there was a Maggio and that he actually existed but he didn't die, and all this type of stuff that that it was so interesting kind of divulging into all of that.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, a show that I didn't manage to catch, unfortunately, but really wish I did was The Railway Children. Yeah, I remember interviewing Alex Parker, you know, a little while back, and you know, he's so passionate about musical theatre, and you know, is always at the centre of these amazing projects. What was it like working together on this, you know, exciting new musical, and how did that opportunity come about?
Oh, it was incredible. Well, I like I said, I kind of write to a lot of people, and towards the end of last year, I decided I wanted to write to Alex Parker because I'd heard and seen so many of their shows, and I really just love his writing, and he kind of put it really well to me that his type of golden age kind of music, and just really pretty, lovely, like just umptuous British musical theatre is just lovely. It's kind of the type of music that you want to hear, and they just do such a good job of doing that, him and Katie. And so I wrote to him and I just said, look, I've seen some of your shows. I saw that you're doing this type of show. If there was any part coming about, I'd absolutely love to audition for it. And initially I was going to play a part called Jim, who was just someone who was in Act Two, a really lovely part that was played by my friend Jamie in the end. But it was about maybe like 2 weeks later, he said that the guy who was playing Peter had dropped out. And so I said, well, yeah, okay, of course, I'd absolutely love to do it. It was I sat on it for a couple of weeks just because I didn't know what was going on. But then I just, the chance to be able to do a premiere of one of Alex's shows, that's such a beautiful show, was of course I couldn't turn it down. So I did it. It was incredible. Very, very lucky to have been able to have been a part of it, and to have finally sung some of him and Katie's kind of scores. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some commentary as well about, the lack of new British musicals being produced over here. We see a lot of revivals, a lot of shows transferring from Broadway. Why do you think we don't see as many new British musicals as perhaps we would like?
Hmm. It seems so much harder in the UK to be able to produce and put on your own shows than it does elsewhere, kind of in America. That's the kind of, there's so many more American musicals, new musicals going up there that are, wildly successful. And it only takes a moment to look at the type of shows that I stand right now, like Standing at the Sky's Edge, and like the Bake Off musical. They're two British musicals that couldn't be further apart, and yet are both stunning. And the writing is just incredible. I think it's just hard getting the opportunity. I've got friends who have their own production companies and theatre companies, and who create stunning new writing. But getting that opportunity to put these shows on is very, very hard, and it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of people giving up their free time, and and friends chipping in and helping out. And that's, I think it's just much harder for that to happen over here, and for it to be kind of supported, which is a shame, really. And I hope that these recent musicals doing so well, like Sylvia and Standing at the Sky's Edge, and these British shows, I hope that's kind of a step forward into it becoming more accessible for writers and young writers.
Yeah, I hope so, definitely. We recently saw the end of the Six Nations tournament as well, and there's always regular reporting around, football and other sporting events. Do you think we'll ever see, an equal focus for theatre and the arts as there is for sport?
Well, if you look at the UK, theatre and entertainment, television, film, radio, theatre is literally the backbone. The arts is the backbone of our country.
Mm.
And football, we are also renowned for football as the UK. But I I mean, just from the pandemic and seeing kind of the way that arts workers were treated, and how the current government perceived us, is a prime example of the kind of discrimination and kind of just the disregard that people have for us, and the unsupport. I've got friends who are working in the West End and are working another job to be able to get by, and I think that it will take a lot for it to be able to be up there, because the arts is so important, but I don't think it's appreciated enough by the people that we need to be appreciated by, the people who fund us, and who look out for us. The audiences and alone can kind of prove how the work that we do is so important. But I would love to see a day where football and theatre are on the same page, and it's treated with the same kind of love, but it would need a big shift.
Yeah, absolutely. You've also previously really opened up about, your past struggles with anorexia. What made you want to open up about such a personal story?
Well, because when I started struggling with an eating disorder, I didn't really know anything about it, and when I kind of saw that this is what I had, I was quite ashamed to speak out about it, because just to speak to anyone about it, really, because I did not know any males, especially, who'd talked about it. And so when I kind of got my diagnosis and started having treatment, it was during my second year of drama school, which was a really tough time, and it was a really kind of uneasy time. But I kind of, with the help of the NHS, I got through it, and I'm now in recovery. I've finished treatment almost a year ago, and I'm I'm back to my normal self now. But what is really important is just to be, for me, it just felt really important to be able to talk about it, because unfortunately, people are still dying of eating disorders, and it's still not being talked about much, especially men in eating disorders. The biggest charity in the UK it was Eating Disorders this week, a couple of weeks ago, and their main topic was men with eating disorders, which was really great to be able to talk about that and to kind of share with them my story. So a lot of other men could maybe see it and know that they're not by themselves, because it can very much feel isolating being a male with an eating disorder, and just having an eating disorder in general. So yeah, no, it kind of just felt like the right thing to do for me to be able to speak out about it, because I'm not ashamed about it anymore. I'm proud about it, and so I feel like I should speak about things that I'm proud of, and this type of thing is something that is important. So yeah, it kind of felt just like the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, very brave, definitely. How challenging was it, asking for help, and did that come
Mm.
fairly naturally to you?
Um, no and yes. I was really lucky that I had a friend who kind of pointed out that my behaviors were kind of unhealthy. And so once I kind of realized that, and I kind of decided to write an email to someone. I think the hardest thing to do was kind of speaking to my nearest and dearest about it, kind of like my parents and my friends, not because I was worried about what they were going to say. I'm really lucky that I've got a great bubble around me, but it was more of just sharing something that is really affecting me, and that's not like a necessarily a very physical thing. It's mental health, and talking about mental health is, even a couple of years ago, was so much more rare than it is now. And so it was really tough being able to do that, and I think it's tough for anyone to be able to do that. Um, but it was very important that I did, so that I could kind of get the help that I needed. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about like, your work with musical theatre and your training in musical theatre. Would you ever consider doing a play at all?
Oh yeah, I would absolutely love to do a play. I'm kind of at the stage of my career now where I want to do anything and everything, and say yes to anything. I've done a great couple of musicals and a couple of films and commercials, and now I'm kind of just I'm eager to kind of go into that world if the right thing comes about. I've had a couple of auditions for some plays and stuff, which has been just great to be able to do that, and to kind of make those connections. But yeah, I'd absolutely love to do a play one day. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you've always come across like a really sweet and really approachable guy. What is Cassius Hackforth like on a bad day?
Oh my gosh. Um, who knows? My thing is that I'm very much productive, which is great, but it can be quite toxic when I'm not productive. And so I kind of, I can sometimes kind of get too obsessed about my work, and then forget that actually this is, despite, my work is my passion, but also there are other things that are important to me. So on a bad day, you'd probably see me getting stressed over tiny little things, like singing a note flat on a self tape, or doing an audition that wasn't great, or just having worries about silly things. It's kind of good to just remind myself that the right things will come when they're meant to come, and as long as I'm kind of loving what I'm doing and working hard, then that's enough. And so I like to kind of relax and bake and and chill out, and yeah, have a bath.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such an exciting time for theatre at the moment, with loads of exciting
Yeah.
announcements, but also a really challenging time for theatre too. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or so?
Wow. I mean, but if in 5 years' time I'm doing this still, I'd be really happy. Just generally, I'm working three different jobs at the moment, but if I'm still being an actor, then I'll be really happy. What I really want to go towards now is more film and TV, as well as a theatre, because I've kind of had a newfound passion from doing that tiny little role in Indiana Jones, and just having a real passion for that type of stuff. So really, if I'm being able to do some little bits of theatre, of screen and stage work, of anything really that means I can still be performing, I'll be really chuffed. Obviously, I've got like goals and roles and all that type of stuff that I'd love to play, but I think I'm just going to keep it to being able to keep on doing this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been so incredible talking to you. Yeah, how would you finish this sentence? Cassius Hackforth is.
Cassius Hackforth is enthusiastically, crazily passionate about what he does, and will not stop until until he dies, probably.
Cassius Hackforth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.